Oh boy, this episode, whilst being a very rushed origin story for Wiccan, I don't think was needed, and it is my skippable episode of the series. What I mean by that is when I rewatch the show, I am certainly going to be skipping episode 6. But there are still some good things within it, so let's get into it and break down and review episode 6 of Agatha All Along. As a side note, I think Joe Locke's singing voice was quite nice, but I'm not sure if you can actually be openly gay or gay to have a bar mitzvah and read from the Torah within the Jewish community. I'm not part of the Jewish community, so I wouldn't know, but I'm willing to bet, as with any religious organization, that gay and being gay is a no-no. I don't think that's that realistic, really. Also, if they're trying to stay at 13, which is when Joe Locke's trying to play, which is not believable at all as Joe Locke passing as a 13-year-old, but when they're trying to say that he's 13 doing his bar mitzvah, even at that point, because the actor is Joe Locke, no way am I suspending my disbelief that much to be like, oh yeah, everybody in that room totally thinks that Joe Locke as Billy Kaplan is a straight male at 13. No way. Also, here we have the return, unfortunately, of the stereotypical Hollywood gay dialogue cliche, where we're back to annoying, cringy dialogue, where Jack Schaefer and co think that gay young people sound like that and speak in the land of TikTok, which they had stopped doing, which I was happy when they were on the Witch's Road. They had sort of stopped doing it with Joe Locke's character, but nope, here it makes its return, unfortunately. And speaking of like the gay kind of things in this episode, I actually unfortunately cringed when Billy Kaplan and I think his name's Teddy or Eddie kisses his boyfriend when they kiss. I did not enjoy that at all. Twice, the 2 times they did it. I'm actually part of the LGBT community myself. I know, but still, I cringed hard watching this. I think that's because it felt forced. Because he's a gay character, so they need to show a gay kiss to confirm it. Also, I think this episode, because again it focuses on Joe Locke heavily, I think this episode comes off more as a Heartstopper episode, and I felt like I was watching Heartstopper, and I did not watch Heartstopper for the exact reason that it's a teen drama. And here I feel like I don't like this specific episode because it feels like a teen drama. But what did we learn this episode, and what did I like? Well, wow. It turns out that Lilia was the one that put the sigil on Billy Kaplan. So this is one of the mysteries of the show solved. Anyway, here, Lilia says, your lifeline is broken when she reads his palm. And she said, your lifeline is broken in two. And she sees a Wiccan, like future Wiccan, well, Billy Maximoff's reflection in the crystal ball, and not Billy Kaplan, the person who's in front of her. And also here she says, and this is interesting, she says, the tower reversed. Again, it's another tarot card reference. She's been saying them since she's first appeared. She keeps dropping tarot cards here, there, and everywhere. This time, the tarot card for the tower reversed, its meaning is, and I've got it on my notes, so do excuse me, it says, in its reversed position, the tower card suggests a resistance to personal transformation. It signifies a reluctance to embrace change willingly. Instead of accepting the need for change, you might be holding on to beliefs, even though you know they no longer serve you. Now, this is obviously alluding to the transformation soon to come for Billy Kaplan, because he dies and then turns into Billy Maximoff. So, and then again, I guess she means the tower's reversed when Billy is trying to struggle with his identity about who he actually is. Is he William Kaplan? Is he Billy Maximoff? And he's resisting that change, even though he knows Billy Kaplan will no longer serve him because he's now a Maximoff. But also, maybe this is a duo, a double-sided prediction for Lilia herself, as we see in the trailer with the Oz episode. They look like they're in some sort of castle tower, which gets reversed, and it looks like a room full of swords where the Salem Seven and Lilia look like they're falling downwards towards, or upwards towards. So I thought that was a nice little nod too, so I wonder if that prediction was for herself and also Billy Kaplan. But here, this episode becomes a fun little coinky-dink of who's who once again. It seems, from the episode where Agatha says that witches are in close proximity or whatever, seems this is true, and 13-year-old William Maximoff bumps into Lilia, obviously, because she's the one that read his palm, and he bumps into Alice, the police officer, or Alice, the police officer, is in that vicinity after the car crash that kills Billy Kaplan. Also, it is Billy Maximoff who's obsessed with Jen's skincare online. Again, when he goes to find Ralph or Randall or Randy, whatever his name is, which is Evan Peters, in this episode he learns about Agatha through here. And it seems that this William Kaplan kid was always destined to die and indeed go down the witch's road with these specific witches. Isn't that neat? However, I will say Evan Peters' Ralph being called Bonerific 69 online. Ugh, not cool, not funny. Hardy ha, womp womp, no. Interestingly, though, here, it is unfortunately, as I've touched on, that William Kaplan did indeed die in that car crash. And he happened to die outside of Westview, where Wanda's spell was shrinking down, the exact moment Wanda tucked Tommy and Billy to bed. It seems then that the MCU and Jack Schaefer have decided to say that Kid Billy, after their bodies got taken away by the spell, he jumped ship into this newest vessel, which was sadly William Kaplan's dead body in the back of his parents' car. So now this is not similar to the comics. It is and it isn't. It's not similar because in the comics, where after Mephisto takes the children's souls back, which they didn't bother doing in WandaVision. Anyway, after Mephisto takes the bodies of the kids back, Billy and Tommy, they are then born again into new families, and then they age up, and then they go find Wanda when they're older because they're kind of drawn to her, and they don't know why until they find out who she is. And that's the Children's Crusade Marvel comic where they explore this. Also, interestingly, in the Children's Crusade, Doctor Doom is having a relationship with Wanda, and we're about to get Doctor Doom in the form of Robert Downey Jr., though, in the latest or the newest upcoming Fantastic Four film. So, I don't think they're going to go down the Doom Scarlet Witch relationship route, obviously, because Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man. That would just not work. Also, when Billy and his boyfriend are with Ralph, it is revealed here that Wiccan is actually on the road to go get Tommy. And I have to say that I did know this, I knew this, not that he was going to get Tommy. When he first said in one of the first or second episodes, he said, I want to go down the witch's road for power, witchy blasts and all that. I have said in my other previous reviews that I don't buy that. I think he's down the road for knowledge. And essentially he's down the road for knowledge because he wants to know where Tommy is. But here I have to ask, is this Agatha's show? Is it really Agatha's show, or is this Wiccan's show? It feels like this is setting up a future MCU family reunion between the boys and the parents. And of course, when Billy does find Tommy, probably at the end of the Witch's Road, he's going to go off and get Mum and Dad, which is Scarlet Witch and Vision. Although I'm not sure in this episode why they say that Vision's been broken up into parts, because in WandaVision, Vision transferred Wanda's version that she created of Vision with the Mind Stone transferred his memories into the White Vision body vessel. So then that became Vision, to my knowledge, and then the White Vision went off with all of Vision's actual memories. So why they're saying that he's broken down into parts, maybe that happened off camera. Certainly hasn't happened anywhere that I've seen that White Vision has been disassembled and broken up into pieces. So I think even Jack Schaefer might have forgotten her own narrative. And of course, the people, I'll put their names there because I've forgotten, the people who did the Doctor Strange 2, they didn't even bother watching WandaVision, so they're not even going to be aware that White Vision exists. Also here to kind of note is how on earth did Wanda not sense Tommy and Billy, because they jumped ship over to at least Billy did, jumped over to a new vessel like a few hundred yards away from Wanda. Then she went off to the Darkhold to kind of look for her boys. That was what Multiverse Madness is all about. But whilst we have an answer to why she couldn't sense or find Billy because Lily had put the sigil on him, that doesn't explain why she couldn't find Tommy, because Tommy isn't a witch, so cannot jump into somebody else's body. So why did Wanda not find Tommy? Also, this is a great scene where Billy Maximoff goes into William Kaplan's room, and around the room there's loads of posters. And I'll tell you what I found here. Before Billy Maximoff redecorates the room into like this witchy kind of room, we can see two posters for Houdini, a poster for Mystic Rock, posters for Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, and the Black Cauldron, which I thought was a really good reference. Not often do people think or talk about the Black Cauldron enough, and I loved that film when I was a kid and still love it now. So it's really cool that Disney, out of all of their kind of witchy magic movies, went for Black Cauldron. But I have a theory as to why, and it's coming up. And also we see in the background there's figures of Wizard of Oz and a Lego castle. And now if you put 2 and 2 together, the Lego castle I think is going to be the castle that they go to for the Wizard of Oz episode. And is that shot in the trailer where there's like Agatha, I think it's Agatha or whoever it is, like as the Green Witch, in the exact pose that I saw the figure in that was behind Billy Maximoff's head in William Kaplan's room. God, that's a mouthful. But anyway, as I said, my theories on these specific posters. Did anyone else notice this? Mystic Rock, as in Alice's Trial, all about like rock from the 70s and stuff. We also got the Black Cauldron, which came out in 1985 for Agatha's Trial. I know she's not in the Black Cauldron. that 1985 is what that period was set in for Agatha's trial. After we saw the Mystic Rock in the 70s, then we got Black Cauldron came out in 1985 for the next trial. Obviously, Alice in Wonderland, there's a picture online of Rio in a Mad Hatter's kind of Alice in Wonderland world. And then also Wizard of Oz, which is Lilia's trial. So everything on the road seems to lead back to or link back to William Kaplan's bedroom and his existence. Isn't that fascinating? So I don't think the road is like a figment of William Kaplan's imagination. Although they could do a flip on us and William will just wake up from the car instant like, wow, that was a weird dream. I don't think they're going to do that though. But I feel like maybe it's a figment of both William Kaplan and Billy Maximoff's combined personality. Both their rooms are sort of guiding, maybe designing the roads and how the trials are set up based on them as people. And isn't that really interesting that you can link back each of those posters on William Kaplan's wall before he became Billy Maximoff? So I thought that was cool. Then we jump to 3 years later. Billy and his boyfriend have that cringy kiss scene and they go into his bedroom. And that's where he tells his boyfriend that he has a dossier. But here, before we get into it, let's do one more quick look around the new room, which is Billy Maximoff's room. Well, here, what we can see is that there seems to be nods to the end credit scene in Billy Maximoff's room. The Craft, there's a poster for The Craft, which is in the end credit scene. Also, there's a poster in the back room for Patty and the Blue Balls. I think it's Patty and the Blue Balls, which was a rock band in the 1960s and 70s. And there's also a poster for Carrie, like the original film Carrie. And again, there's more Fleetwood Mac posters and references, and of course, a lot of references to Lorna Wu. Okay, but back to the dossier. What do we actually learn? Well, he's basically saying that no one in Westview will actually talk about what happened, as we know from the show itself in the first and second episode. But it appears that the government might be protecting Wanda because Billy's boyfriend says, that big red dome thing in the sky, I thought that turned out to be some Avengers training exercise gone wrong. And isn't that interesting? Maybe back then, 3 years ago, when Wanda shut down the spell, it seemed that the government had stepped in and gone, oops, that was just an Avengers training exercise gone wrong. And people in Westview don't talk about it. But now I wonder, they don't talk about it or they're not allowed to talk about it. And potentially the government were protecting Wanda because she was an Avenger and they understood her grief probably, but maybe they were protecting her then, but now after the events of Multiverse of Madness, A, she's dead, but B, no longer do I think they're protecting her. So I thought that was great. And then Billy and his boyfriend go off to find Ralph, and they learn there about Agatha Harkness and that the twins disappeared and no one knows where they've gone, and that Billy kind of learns here, he's like, well, I know where one of the twins went because it's me. And of course, I feel like we're going to find Tommy at the end of The Witch's Road, which is so similar there to the comics, where Billy and Tommy first meet each other first and then discover who they are. Then in the Children's Crusade, do they go after Wanda because they're both drawn to her. Billy then looks up Agatha online. And here I think this scene earns a few laughs, certainly from me, because I thought it was quite funny when he was like researching into Agatha and who she is. Also to note here, Lorna Wu's version of the Witch's Road song is playing in the background, and I thought that was really nice to hear Lorna Wu's version. Anyway, what are the funny online things that Wiccan researched that made me laugh? Well, Billy Maximoff. Right, so we have Titanicopedia, which I thought was quite funny. Survivors of the Titanic, which is one of the images of Agatha from the past. And then there's an article on a mysterious woman who survived the Zeppelin explosion, which is the Hindenburg disaster of May 6, 1937. Anyway, Agatha is also a funny gag here because Agatha appears to be the real Jolene and Dolly Parton's giving a good old slap. So I thought that was quite funny. And also, it kind of makes me think here, is Jack Schaefer suggesting Agatha caused both the Titanic and the Hindenburg disasters? She does say she's lost count of how many people she's killed. Anyway, here Billy goes back to Westview to go and talk to Agatha about where Tommy is and the Witch's Road. And here he learns in his book like a release spell, like a release spell to like wake up somebody. But he notes that he needs to have an important personal item, aka this time Agatha's brooch, which he picks up when he goes into her house. And that's when he starts speaking Latin, which is why he spoke Latin. So yeah, it was Billy who woke up Agatha and released her from the spell. I think maybe Rio, but Rio wasn't in the house. So was Agatha imagining Rio, or was Rio there but invisible? Also here we see just how different the world was for Agatha compared to the real world, where Joe Locke's character is quite polite and friendly to Agatha, where we saw him as, like, as he says himself, you've typecast me as like the suspicious teen of a crime drama thriller show, which is what Agatha did based on the spell she was under. But here we see that Teen was quite kind of quirky and kind with Agatha, not that she heard that. And this did make me laugh here, the scene. Both the two scenes here, the chase scene made me laugh because Billy Maximoff kind of slowly walked very softly into Sharon Davis's car door instead of being run over. But it's funny that Agatha envisioned him being run over and had such a heart gasping moment about, oh my god, this person's been knocked over, because she thought he was Nicholas Scratch at the time. But here it was just like a really funny comedy scene where Joe Locke actually stands out on his own as a comedian against Catherine Hahn. So I thought that was good for Joe Locke, and I did actually start to warm towards him being cast as Wiccan when he's in this funny, quirky mode. And the other scene that made me laugh is when they were on about poking the bear, and Joe Locke's got this smirk on his face, and I just think Joe Locke's about to break character here in this moment. it's not Teen laughing or smirking that Agatha's in his face going, oh, you don't want to poke the bear? And he's like, no, I definitely don't want to poke the bear. And she's like, yeah, you don't want to poke the bear, do you? And he's like, nope, definitely don't want to poke the bear. But then he's smirking, and because he's smirking, it made me laugh, and that made me, again, warm to his character. And that's kind of how they catch you back up into present day. They go from that moment into him being thrown back into the closet by Agatha when he got kidnapped by her. And he gets a funny gag when he goes, no, don't put me back in the closet. Which I thought was quite a funny gag. But then we're back in the present day. And in the present day, Agatha gets herself out of the mud pit that she's in. Kind of didn't sink. She found the route and crawled herself out of the mud pit, and when she's doing that, Billy Maximoff crushes the sigil that Lilia put on him. So now he's open for all the witches of the world to sense him. So I wonder if that means like Wanda in the other realm, or wherever her soul is, maybe she now senses him, and now she's going to be like, my children, my real ones, I'm going to have to go get them back. That'd be sweet. I want their family reunion. Here, Agatha said, that was quite a debut, as she kind of like walks behind him, and she's got like mud all over, and her hair's all muddy, and she looks rubbish. But I thought, yeah, I agree with you, Agatha. That was quite the debut for Billy Maximoff to enter the MCU. So yeah, thought that was good. Also, Agatha continues to be very funny here. She kind of mocks Billy and says, power is what I'm missing. And then she just looks at hardly. That's what she says, because she's just been thrown by Lilia and Jen into the muddy pit because Wiccan made them mind control and throw them in. So I thought that was funny when she was like, hardly. Like, you don't need power. She also has another funny line later when she went, I've killed my share. So I thought that was quite funny. She can't even keep count of how much people she's killed. And again, Agatha continues to be funny when she says, you and your mother have the same tell, in relation to like, Billy Maximoff kind of asks, when did you know I was Billy? And she's like, oh, from the start, which is totally crap because she's thought he's Nicholas Scratch up until the last episode. But I guess that's just her being a bit more, her walls are up. She's not going to admit to like having, maybe motherly feelings for him. And she's like, I already knew you were Billy Maximoff from the beginning. But she says, you and your mother have the same tell. And then Billy goes, which is? And then she just answers, very inconvenient for you. Like, she's not going to give the tell away. But here, though, there's a really almost nice scene between Agatha and Billy when she says, it's nice to see you again, Billy. And she's kind of got tears in her eyes. But she did used to, babysit them. They go way back 2 days of babysitting. That's how much memories they got. Although I wonder, from the opening credits of WandaVision, where you see all the different pictures from them being babies and aged up, I wonder if time moved differently in Westview. So it was quite a lengthy time for everybody trapped in Westview, and not like 7 or 8 days, which was the reality. But anyway, they go back 2 days babysitting. So, she also here has some nice things to say about witch kind and witch people, and she kind of says to Billy Maximoff, don't feel guilty about your talent, which I think she means body hopping, and she says, you survived like witches have been doing for centuries. And then she says, you broke the rules to stay alive, so what? This makes you special, it's what makes you a witch. And I think here she's actually proud of Wiccan. I keep saying Wiccan. They've not called him Wiccan. It's Billy Maximoff. She's proud of Billy Maximoff. Well, we all know he's Wiccan. She's proud of Billy Maximoff, and I think she's genuinely proud. And she no longer sees him as this familiar pet. In this moment, anyway, I think she's kind of learnt that lesson because she called him a pet. She called him a pet and got thrown into a muddy pit. So I think she's learned not to call him a familiar or a pet anymore. And I think she actually maybe now respects him as the witch that he is. Also, there's another funny gag where Billy's like, I don't need you anymore, and I don't need to have the road with you. And he goes to blast her with his magic, but finds out that he has no magic. But he too seems like the rest of the coven and the witches on the road, not to be able to display power on the road, although I'm not quite sure how they're doing this, because I'm pretty sure they mentioned on the witches' road they have to rely on other types of magic and the craft, not like the blasty powers that they have. And it's like pick and choose, because obviously Alice blasted Agatha in the previous episode within a trial where they seem to have more magic capability, and then on the Witch's Road, Wiccan or Billy Maximoff did everything he just did, which was really cool to see. But it's like pick and choose of when they can actually use and magic and when they can't use magic, and it's not made too clear to me about when they cannot use magic on this Witch's Road. Also here, Agatha kind of laughs at him when he tries to use magic and can't, and she's like, it's like a pitiful, kind of pathetic laugh, like, hey, I find you so pitiful and pathetic. And then he's like, well, just know that I have these powers. But just, I might not be able to use them, just know that they're there, as in that's a warning for Agatha. Then Agatha kind of wonders what Billy Maximoff is on the road for. Goodness me. And ends up kind of figuring out that it's not about mum or dad because they're dismantled and dead. So she goes, oh, you must be looking for Tommy. Which then Billy kind of says, yeah, obviously. And they both agree that they will go down the road together. But now the trust is broken. And that is the end of this week's episode. Again, like I said, I think there's good parts. There is good in the bad. The bad for me personally is that it felt more at the beginning, very much at the beginning, a Heartstopper episode with Joe Locke at being the main center of this episode. I am beginning to warm to him. I warmed to him at the end of the last episode when he became Billy Maximoff or Wiccan, and I thought that was really cool. But here, with the origin story from the comics being a little played with, and it feeling a bit heartstoppery and gay teen drama, it will definitely be my skippable episode in the future when I rewatch the show. I might watch the end bit because that scene at the end with Catherine Hahn and Joe Locke kind of like figuring each other out, but for reals, I thought that was quite funny. And again, as I pointed out to you, there's so many comedic lines there that do make me chuckle. And I love that little internet research on Agatha. So I think this is good. I have no idea where it's going. I hope next week is Oz, the episode of Oz, and I hope there's like a longer episode too. Hopefully good enough to explain why Lilia put a sigil on him, because we still don't know why she did it. We know who did, but not why. But anyway, that's my thoughts on this week's episode. Still very much enjoying it and looking forward to next one. Feel free to watch me in that one. Okay, bye.